Hello, everyone. It is Bex here, and today is extra special because I have two of my favorite women on board with me today to have some real conversation about some real deep stuff. I have Danny J. Johnson. Hello.
Hey, mama.
And Jill Coleman, the fabulous Jill Coleman. Hello. I'm going to tell you a little bit about these ladies, and then we're going to get right into it because they have a podcast that is fire and that is inspiring me. Danny J is driven, passionate, fun, and full of laughter. She is a high energy speaker who can dish it to you straight with just enough sugar to make you want more. I have not seen this sugar, Danny.
Yeah, that's a lie.
She is a serial entrepreneur who has created multiple successful brands and online businesses with one underlying principle: make people more awesome. That's always a good thing. As a real life example of truth is stranger than fiction, she uses her Jerry Springer life stories to engage with her audience, teach life lessons, and inspire others to rewrite their stories. Oh my gosh, it gets so Jerry Springer up in her situation. Jill Coleman is the kick-ass genius behind JillFit.com, the co-founder of Metabolic Effect, and former fitness competitor and model. She's been featured in Self Magazine, Family Circle, Shape, Women's Health Magazine, Prevention Magazine, and many online news outlets like Yahoo Health, Livestrong.com, and AOL. Jill's passion for mindset, body, and business coaching led her to create her flagship program, the Best of You Coaching Club Mentorship, as well as several signature online programs like Mindset Makeover, the Food Obsession Bootcamp, and her 52-week exercise program, the Total Training Experience. 52 weeks is a long time. I think I could hang in for like 2.5. But that's not what we're talking about today. I'm so excited to have you. I wrote so many notes. I've been listening to your podcast, the Best Life podcast, and you say in the podcast that it is an audacious statement to say that you are going to offer, people the solution or the ways to achieve their best life. But I know you, and I know that you two really are living amazing lives filled with joy and gratitude. And I stand in awe of your resilience. So first of all, I would like your permission maybe to put it in the works in sometime in your schedule to allow me to produce the Best Life after show starring me, because I just want to get on after every episode and talk about what just happened, because you open it up with talking about your husband's cheating on you, having affairs.
Yeah.
All right. So here's my question. Making the decision to choose the best life. That's what you talk about. So you talk about being betrayed, being in the worst places that you can imagine for yourselves, or actually that you couldn't have imagined, and then making the choice to live the best life, which sounds to some people maybe obnoxious. No, for real,
yeah.
It's a choice. Talk to me about that. Both of you, just jump in because it's so big.
It was so funny. So we tell the story in the podcast of how we came up with the name, The Best Life. And it's kind of been a mantra over the last couple of years. Like, both of us had times where we were going through something really hard. If someone had told me, when I had first found out about my husband's infidelity, to just be grateful for the things that you do have, I could never have heard that. Because you don't, like you said, it is obnoxious, because I think we all know that we're going to eventually get there, but it's really hard to feel authentic and feel grateful. And so trying to find clues to the things in my life that were amazing. And that's a really hard practice. And also, I want to point out that it is a practice. You don't just wake up and you're able to kind of do that. And I was reading and I was doing self-development work before this shit hit the fan. I was kind of doing this preemptive, preventative kind of mindset work. And I know Danny was the same, but if I had not really done that and was just smacked across the face with this, I wouldn't have the tools to have been able to do that. And we're trying to, with the Best Life, try to create context. And I know everyone has different struggles. Not everyone has been through infidelity or betrayal, but a lot of the same feelings arise: shame, guilt, embarrassment, anger. And so in that moment, can you figure out a way to feel gratitude for the things that you do have? And it's a really tough practice.
What you said is so key though, because the tools that I offer people, like I don't want them in the middle of a panic attack to click on my video and then try to teach themselves how to meditate. Like that is not the time. Although I have some solutions for that. It's really like all of this stuff is to strengthen you for the moment that the shit hits the fan. You know, if I didn't have my practice over the past few years, you know, losing my parents and struggling financially and dealing with, you know, family drama and health drama, there's no way that I would have survived, at least in the way that I did. So start the practice today. Don't wait for the drama to start.
Totally. It's like it's starting when it's easy or easier. And it's funny because when you project something, you always think you'll never be able to get through it. You'll hear somebody's story and go, man, I could never do what you did, or I'd never be able to get through that. But then when you're in this situation, you have no choice but to get through it. You just have to. So you just go, okay, I'm going to have to figure this out because here I am. And you're looking for answers, of course. And, you know, we talked about this on the affairs episode, is sometimes it does feel justified to, like, you want to sit in your anger and you want to be able to be mad and say, like, this wasn't my fault, but that only gets you so far and you can't stay in that forever. I mean, I have one of my best friends growing up, her mom's husband, her dad, left her mom 20 years ago and she's still angry. And I remember looking at that going, I'll see things like that and go, that's not where I want to be. Mm-hmm. So I have to make a different choice, even though it sucks and you don't always want to make a different choice. You have the option. You get to be the bitter person for 20 years, or you get to be angry for a little bit, let yourself feel it. Don't just gloss over it, but then try to figure out another way to be moving forward.
Here's the thing though, that makes you all special. And I talk about this a lot on my platform, that there are people who get through things. They white knuckle it, they struggle through it, they find ease through the process, whatever. They all get through things in different ways. And those stories though are their own. They don't make the decision to then go out and tell their stories to the world like you two do. And that makes you very special. Everyone doesn't have to do it, but it's something that makes you two very special. And I appreciate that, because something that you mentioned in the podcast, Jill, you do the work of Byron Katie. And I have a terribly embarrassing Byron Katie story that I will not share here, but like I embarrassed myself fully in front of her once in a green room. But you do this work and it's brilliant work, but you said that she says that there are no new stories. And that's why it's so important for people like you and me to tell our stories, to remind people that what they're going through isn't new at all, and they don't have to be alone in it. And what I would, like to know from you is how you found that strength. Who were the people that you look to, or who are your mentors, people that you follow?
So I think the thing that is, useful for people to know is you don't just come out of the gates like sharing about your husband's affair. Like that's not, that's not like, you don't just make that huge leap. What you do is you start with something really small. Like I remember 5 years ago feeling terrified to share that I was drinking a glass of wine on the internet, because previously it was all about perfect eating and I never allowed people to see when I wasn't eating perfectly. And that felt really vulnerable at the time. Mm-hmm. But here's what happens is you start to share kind of stepwise, and you start to get affirmation that like, whoa, people really like this, want this, enjoy this, need this. And that gives you the confidence and frankly, the competency to continue to share. So people beginning, I can't believe you guys shared that. To us, we feel 100% like it was a service, and we would not have shared it if we weren't in a place where we could share it fairly objectively and from a place of service and value rather than just dumping, right? So there's a progression there. And I think, I work with a lot of first-time, entrepreneurs just into the online space, and they're terrified to share stuff. And so you share just one small thing, have the full experience, see that you've survived it. Not only that, but that people really love it and want it and need it. And I think that Danny and I, and I'm sure you too, Bex, have gotten that affirmation over and over and over again. And it's like, once you get that, it's like, you can't not share.
Right. And that competency is so important. And I think that that's the part that no one really acknowledges, that there is a skill to be developed in sharing. And then when you're just going out there and you're spilling it all out without really having control over the situation and really, and kind of an idea of what you want the outcome to be, or what you want people to learn, or how you want to be of service, it can get really messy. And you don't want to be in that situation.
No, I think it's so important, to be in your emotional integrity. So one one thing that I know Danny and I tried to do is we tried to like really honor the full array of emotions that come up when anything like this happens, whether it's, you know, loss of a job, loss of a, I mean, like it could be anything, but honor and really be in our emotional integrity to be able to like really articulate that. I could not have articulated that 2 years ago, even a year ago, probably. And so it does take some time, some personal work, some, like Danny and I had those conversations like dozens of times. So when it finally came out on air, it was like, we're just having the same conversation we've always had. So it came out really natural and hopefully of service.
But were there people that you followed that you wanted to emulate? Were there examples of that you saw, or was it something that you developed on your own?
I don't know anyone, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Because like normally there is someone. I've certainly had mentors.
Yeah.
You know, for me, I can't really think of someone.
Okay. No, that's great. I love it. I love it because, and that also lends itself to the idea that there is this inner higher self, this inner, you know, God self, if you will, that understands the right things to share and the right ways to share. And that if you tap into that, if you're really quiet with yourself and you ask yourself the right questions, you'll know how to tell your story in a way that feels good.
I just went to a mastermind in Vegas a couple of weeks ago, and the first day was all about speaking, public speaking. And so we talked about reasons why people speak. Why would supposedly it's the thing that people fear next to death. Like it's the worst thing to do, public speaking. Mm-hmm. And so he's like, why are we in a room full of people who want to be here to speak better? And he said there's really 3 reasons people speak. One is a hobby. So that might be somebody who goes to like Toastmasters and they just want to get better at speaking. The second one would be like a career. They're a speaker and that's what they do for a job. But the third one is that it's a calling. Mm-hmm. And I think that for myself, at least, and I think for you and for Jill as well, I think there's a draw for us to want to be a teacher or want to be able to share. And so for whatever that is, it's really just deep inside. I can't explain it other than it's just a calling. There's no reason why I would want to get on the internet and talk about this stuff, except I feel that I need to. And so there's nothing else. And it's terrifying. I mean, Jill and I, we did it and we were shaking after, and then we listened to it on a drive back and we were both crying going, holy cow, I can't believe this is coming out. And, so good. But it literally is just, if I could say anything, it's just a calling and I can't explain it any way.
Yeah, no, that's interesting that you say that because I look at different women in my industry specifically, let's say like a Gabby Bernstein, and I see her standing in front of a crowd of 1,000 or more people. And I'm like, gosh, I'd really love to do that. But it's so hard for me. Like I can't copy what she does because that would be so inauthentic to me. And then I wonder like, how am I going to get there? Like, how would I do that? And so I have to sit with myself and say, okay, so I want that. I want to be able to reach people on a large scale. And I want people to receive like the lessons that I've learned. But then I have to think, how am I going to do it? And that makes me look away then from other people. And, I don't want to follow what other people are doing for too much because then it becomes something different than what I'm meant to share. So that's a good answer. I'm glad that you have nobody that you want to copy.
I think to be honest, we both read lots of books and follow people, but maybe this happened for me years ago when I was getting out of fitness. I had to unfollow a bunch of people because it was triggering me. I was just dealing with a lot of health issues and I had followed all of these people in my space and I went through a period of massive unfollowing. And I find too, when I'm about to create something, if I'm doing a new program or writing something new, I try to stay focused because I don't want outside influences because I've been copied before. And I also can see how it can make you feel less than, like you look at someone like that going, dang, I want that. And then all of a sudden you're beating yourself up because you're not good enough yet. I remember when I first saw you and Cassie on YouTube, your videos were so edited and I didn't know how to do that. And they were so fancy and it made me almost not post because I wasn't there yet. So I think that a lot of times if you're creating or talking about something, it's best to just like put the blinders off and do what you have to do because you can stop yourself from sharing that something people need to hear because you suddenly think it's not good enough or it's already been done. And that's never true. That's just a lie we tell ourselves.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So here's a question that I want you to use your imagination a little bit on, and it could go a couple of different ways because all of us are so grateful for the experiences we've had because it's, led us here. But then I also say that there are a lot of shitty experiences that I've had that I would rather just have left alone and been a less awesome person in the end because It was not worth the struggle. Because you had such similar situations, both of your husbands had affairs and you ended up, I mean, it's so serendipitous. It's unbelievable, actually, the way that you developed your friendship and you came together and created this life. But if that had not happened, like you're still with your husbands, where would you be now and who would you be now?
Well, it's funny because Jill and I have had these kind of conversations because we were both really happy in our marriages. So I think that we could have seen ourselves just moving on. And, you know, Rebekah, you've met my ex, and
yeah, I adore him.
Yeah. And so I think that I would have, honestly, it's hard to say because I think I would have been happy regardless. You know, I can find happiness in whatever situation I'm in. And even if I had reconciled, I would have made that work too. So the one thing I will say though, is some of the lessons I learned, I don't think I could have learned. So I may have just been a little bit, I don't want to say more naive, but you don't know what you don't know. So I just wouldn't have known what I know now. So I don't think it would have hurt me. I just would have been, like you said, maybe not as awesome, but I think I still would have been awesome. So yeah, I don't know. I think I make the best of every situation, and I loved my marriage, and I loved being married, and I loved everything about our relationship. So I think I really would have kept going. However, there were some things that in my marriage, I felt I was a little bit trying to bring him up with me. So I feel a little bit more free to share some things now that I can just, I don't want to say like the weight has come off, but kind of the weight's come off, and I'm able to go forward without worrying about anyone else. Right. So it may be a little bit selfish, but I've been traveling a lot this year, and that's like, I don't have to think about, I need to get home because I need to make sure I give somebody my attention. I can be selfish right now. And so that's a big difference, but I think that it would have been awesome. I would have made it awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's what I love about you and Jill as well, is that really what you're talking about in the podcast with your message, or what I receive anyway, is that the situation is almost irrelevant to your happiness. And, you know, you talk about people choosing you and how important it was to be chosen. And what's really important is to choose yourself. And when you're doing that, when you're looking for the happiness and the joy and the moments and the situation that you're in, and you're becoming adaptable and resilient and all of those things, that again, it's irrelevant where you are. It's irrelevant who you're with. It's irrelevant what your job is or how much money you're making. And of course, all of those things you look to improve and you look to find, you know, the best situation for. But if the core happiness isn't there, if the gratitude isn't there, then, you know, what does anything else mean?
I know. I think I love that. And it's so true. Now I think there was obviously, like, you know, a few years in there that were just uncertain and uncomfortable and painful. And so like, very much like Danny, I've always found a way to feel happy in the moment. And I would have been happy had I stayed in my marriage. Or maybe if it didn't happen, I couldn't have stayed in my marriage the way after everything happened. But, for me, one of the main things that came out of this that I don't know that I would have gotten without it is I'm so much more independent. And it's funny because I was independent then. I felt very like a strong, independent woman back then, but I'll be like super vulnerable. Right after I found out about my ex-husband's affair, I remember just feeling very alone, and like very much like I have to figure out a way to be alone and do things on my own that, like, I thought I was independent before. So I went up to the mountains in North Carolina. We were living in North Carolina at the time. I drove up to the mountains by myself, and I stayed overnight by myself, which previously, like, why would I have done that? Right? Like, obviously, like, my ex would have come with me. And I was like, I'm going to figure this out. I went to dinner by myself, and I didn't bring my phone or my iPad or any of that kind of stuff. And I just was like, can I cuss on this? I was so uncomfortable. I was so uncomfortable. Like, I was like, oh my God, everyone is staring at me. Everyone's wondering why I'm alone. Like, I'm sure no one was looking. I'm sure no one cared. No one was making up like stories. They were just like, but it felt like everyone knows I'm a loser, right? Like, it just felt all these things with which now I don't even recognize that person, you know, 2 years later, I don't even know who that is. And I have a lot of compassion for the person I was a few years ago who couldn't do those kind of things on her own. Now I don't even think twice about it. And so I forced myself to do those things and be really uncomfortable and feel like a loser and feel really lonely and go through all those experiences. So now I just have much more of like an abundance mindset around my life and being totally fine on my own, and also being fine if I never get married again, or, you know what I mean? So I think, whereas those things I could never have imagined before.
I love that. I love how grateful you all are of just the struggle and the lessons, because I think that's the biggest takeaway for people, is that you did the things, right? You didn't die. You not only didn't die, you thrived, and you live to tell really beautiful stories that are going to help other people to do the same. That's the exciting thing about connection and the internet and all this magic that we have surrounding us and all these opportunities we have to share and to grow together. I have one more question for you folks, and it's a kind of a big one. The real key to your happiness, if there's one thing that you can tell people to seek this, to do this, to use this tool, to have this practice, what is it? Annie?
Like, I'm the guru to say the key to happiness. I mean, obviously it's all,
You're happy.
it's all about, obviously it's all personal, but I do believe that every time, and we learn lessons, and sometimes we have to learn them over and over and over. And the one lesson that I've had to learn over and over, every time there's been a shitty thing and I turned it around, shitty thing, turned it around, the thread that it was gratitude. Mm-hmm. And it was my attitude, like, and it's kind of the same attitude of gratitude. It sounds so corny, but literally I remember the very time that I broke down because I was broke and I got a car ticket and I didn't have any money and I'm bawling and I'm living at my friend's house. And then I reminded myself of, hey, you need to like be grateful you have some friends to live with instead of complaining that you're living with your friends. And same thing with this is, it just was going, okay, well, you have amazing friends to help you, instead of going, you've got an asshole, one person who did something to you, and you've got a billion people who are here to support you. So we tend to focus on the negative. And if we can just like focus, I really believe what you focus on grows. If you can focus on the positive things, those tend to expand. But as humans, we tend to go look at that one thing. Yeah. And so, yeah, just shifting the attitude into gratitude, even though it's hard. That would be probably, if I had to pick the one thing, that'd be it.
Love it. Jill?
Yeah. I love that too. And mine is kind of similar, but, you know, one of the things that really has always kind of saved me is realizing that, I'm still able to make an impact to other people, right? So for me, going through something like this, you know, I'm still running my business the whole time. And I'm like, I have people paying me money who are expecting to get results with me. Like, I can't let them down, even though I want to like go and cry in a hole and like, just like not surface for 3 months. I have responsibilities, not just to myself, but to people who are relying on me. And so I love the idea of having my business as like that anchor. And so I guess for me, it is realizing that your ability to like looking outside yourself and realizing that you can make an impact with other people. And that's how I pulled myself out. I was like, I just can't go underground. Like, I have to stay. It's not just about me. And so realizing for me and finding fulfillment in leveraging something like this story or this podcast or something that I've gone through, to me, that's what really gives me a sense of meaning and fulfillment in my life. And if I couldn't be creating this stuff, then I mean, I might as well go and work for someone else, you know? So that's how important making an impact for other people is. And then it just kind of takes you out of it. And you're like, okay, I can be a victim, or I can be like, I got to pull this out because it's not about me. And I get to do this other stuff. And again, going back to that gratitude of like, I'm grateful that anyone even cares or anyone's even listening. That's an amazing gift. And so for me, it definitely is about impact.
I love that, because with the impact there comes a sense of responsibility. And I do believe, I mean, you know, my mantra is, or something that I share about our purpose here on this earth, is to love and to be loved and to learn and to teach. And in that is an interaction. It isn't just about me. Like, no person is an island. We're not here to do it alone. We're here to receive love and to receive help and to receive the lessons, but then also to put them back out there. And that huge sense of responsibility is actually a gift. It brings me joy because it means that I am in control of my destiny. Like, I have a lot of choices to make and a lot of things to do. And we're never really stuck, ever. Oh my gosh. All right. Well, that was awesome.
Can I ask one thing just real quick of both of you? Okay. Devil's advocate. What would you say to the person who's like, I don't have an impact. I don't have kids. I'm not married, and I like work at a job at Target or something and don't have a lot of friends. Like, what's my responsibility?
Honestly, like, I think you can make even the smallest impact with yourself, right? So you can even just like take up a hobby. Like, I know a lot of friends who don't have this kind of platform or don't have an audience like this, but they go and find a hobby, or they go and join a new gym, or they literally move to a new place and meet new people in that space. So I think you can go like learn something. For me, it's engagement. That's all it is. It's engagement with the people around you or the community or just yourself, and learning something like reading something, taking a class, learning a new skill, learning a new language, traveling. I think you can feel a sense of fulfillment from any of those things. Engagement to me really is the antidote to that.
Mm-hmm. And for me, on a spiritual level, like I said, that we have this shared purpose. It is not something, I mean, for me, it's a matter of complete faith that this is your purpose. You were put here for a reason. So you can fulfill the love, be loved, learn, teach, or you can reject it. And the ways to fulfill it are limitless. You can be a leader of self, like Jill said, just taking control of your own life and being that energetic light that other people, see as a magnet and are inspired by silently. You might never even know the people that you impact just by saying, like, giving a nice greeting to the gas station attendant might change his entire outlook in his day and his entire life. And you could be a leader of your family members, of your community on a small scale. You can go online and be a leader on a large scale, but that is what you are here to do. There's no getting around it. That is your purpose. So if you say, well, I'm not a leader or I don't have influence, it's just a lie. It's a lie that you're telling yourself.
I love it. Such a good question.
I love that.
Thank you, Danny.
Yeah.
give you a job at BEXLIFE. So thank you all who are watching. Thank you to Danny, J, and Jill for showing up. I want you to go and tap into the wisdom that these beautiful, amazing, strong, resilient, independent, smart, all the things women and their podcast, the Best Life podcast. The link is in the video description. It is the top link right under the video. I so appreciate you for hanging out with me today, and definitely go over to BEXLIFE.com and get all my good stuff. Whew, we did it.
Yes. Thank you for having us. It's so good to see you.
Oh, my pleasure. All righty. Thanks, ladies. Hey guys, it's Bex here, and I am here with the fabulous Danny J from the Sweaty Betties and Sarah Dussault from Sarah Fit, Sarah's Fab channel on YouTube. And we are talking about something a little controversial today.
Can we say it all together?
What? Oh, 1, 2, 3.
Instagram selfies!
You messed it up.